Bella Salon and Day Spa, located at 41 West Main Street in Northeast Pennsylvania, proudly supports Chautauqua Sunrise and its volunteers. More information at bellasalonanddayspa.net. Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Doc Hamels, and welcome to Chautauqua Sunrise. What a brilliant, frosty morning it is. I was hoping for beautiful weather, but I wasn't anticipating the 19 degrees this morning. Holy mackerel, it was cold up on the hill. But the sun is actually gorgeous and looks to be a promising, nice weekend. And I guess the temperatures are supposed to rise, so we'll get rid of some of the snow and ice that's been built up. I know it snowed in November before, but I don't remember having a half a foot. So my little guy, Brody, my new puppy there, he's learning the joys of being in the snow and what he's supposed to do out there. So he goes diving headfirst into it and looking for, I'm not sure what. He just is like these imaginary creatures he's chasing in the snow. So anyways, I hope you're having a great weekend and putting up with the weather so far. Long winter ahead of us. We're still in fall yet. Okay, want to do a few things here. I want to first of all say good morning to everybody that's viewing right now here on Access Chautauqua on channel 1301. Okay, I know some of you say, well, why are you telling this? Because people that are watching us on YouTube later on, or they catch us on Facebook or whatever, they might not realize that we moved from channel 5 to 1301, and you can watch us there every Saturday morning live. If you can't catch us live, you can always catch us on YouTube after our crew posts it, and it's there forever and ever, all 280 shows so far. Also, I want to say good morning to all of our viewers around the world. We are taking up the cause of streaming live through Facebook, and so if you're interested and you know a particular speaker or guest is going to be on my show, because we put that in newspapers from time to time, you can watch us anywhere through Facebook. Just got to go to my Facebook page, Chautauqua Sunrise, like it, and whenever we go live, it'll pop up on your phone, and you can watch us. You can call us live as well. And for those of you that do want to call live, our number here is 716-753-5225. I gave you the 716 part. We never did before, but if you are streaming, you could be in California right now, or you could be somewhere in Europe. I don't know. But that is our area code, 716-753-5225. And do me a favor, if you are streaming with us today, leave us a little note or something like that so I know that you visited us. We're trying to track to see how effective the new process is here, and it's just good for our own records, okay? And then I want to say good afternoon. I'm saying a lot of hellos today. Good afternoon to all of our listeners on WRFA 107.9, low power to the people in Jamestown. Thanks for joining us here Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. We've got a great show in store for you as always, but today's particularly because it has kind of still that Veterans Day flavor to it, and we'll be getting to our guest here shortly. All right, let's see what else we've got to talk about. Well, I don't know about you, but I mentioned the cold weather. So this week was my annual throw my back out week. And for whatever reason, the cold weather tightens up the muscles in my back, and I probably was doing a little slipping and sliding out there. I don't know. Bent over and out the back went. Probably one of the most excruciating pains I've ever had. But thank goodness I've got a great chiropractor, Dr. Earl Freeling, who's been on the show in the past. Earl's put me back together probably about 50 times over the years, but wow. Take it slow and easy on the ice. I don't care how old you are, or if you're just doing anything out in this cold weather. Stay warm. Keep your back warm and your muscles and things like that. It can really get to you. Speaking of cold weather in this time of year, today started hunting season. Yes, I woke up to the sounds of booming rifles all over the place out in the woods. So somebody was chasing deer out there, or bear. I'm not sure what they're after. But a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is if you are walking your dog, make sure your dog is on a leash. If you are in a hunting area, don't want anybody to get hurt or anything. Also, if you're at my house, draw the drapes, because you never know if you're walking by your window after a shower and there's a hunter. So just some common sense things. And of course, if you're a hunter, we want you to be safe. Make sure you wear all the proper clothing and all the identifications that you need. So good luck and be careful out there. All right. A couple of shout outs to two individuals, groups that are connected to our show. First of all, one of my underwriters, Meter's Restaurant, was just listed or cited or written about in a great way in the New York Times, if you didn't catch it recently. They were part of a big article about wages for restaurant employees and so forth. And I think it came out just a couple of days ago. I shared it on Facebook. But there's pictures of downtown Ripley and Meters and Bob and Sheila Bentley sitting on the stools at their lunch bar there. And so just good for you guys. You're being recognized across the state and doing a great job. And we always enjoy coming down for lunch, breakfast, or dinner there. And then another shout out is to Kev Rowe, a musician, been on the show here. He posted that he had just found out that his video on YouTube, it's called the official video for his song Burn Away, and it's hit 50,000 views or likes. So Kev is a songwriter, a musician, used to be in Big Leg Emma and a variety of other groups, and was solo, and he performed that very song right here on about 3-4 years ago. So Kev, congratulations. He's a local fella and he's doing great things in the world of music. So I have a few announcements I want to share with you, and then we'll get right into our program. So let's hit Jamestown, New York right off the bat. We'll go to Infinity. It says here, upcoming fall class schedule. All right. Infinity is excited to announce their upcoming fall class schedule. In addition to nearly 300 students taking private lessons at Infinity, students are offered the opportunity to participate in group classes, workshops, performance events, and more each month based on their interests. Okay, these fall group classes include, now this is unbelievable. I read this every year for the last 6 years. I think the list gets longer and longer. Art classes, steel drum exploration, vocal and dance ensemble, Instill Leadership, which is a special program for encouraging leadership skills in young folks, sewing, beginning and advanced music theory classes, intermediate art, moving and grooving, vocal ensemble, let's dance, advanced art, lyrical modern dance, bar and exploration, performance workshop class, video crew, and seasonal art. Woo! there isn't something for everybody there. I don't know what more you want as far as exploring things that are of interest to you, especially in the fine arts. Infinity will be offering a guitar-themed Fix-It workshop with my good friend, local luthier Jim Holler on Monday, November 18th. So that's coming up from 4 to 5 p.m. And a looping pedal workshop. That's really a cool little device that you can use as an electric guitarist with Kyle Gustafson, another friend of mine, on December 3rd. For more information, including dates and times of classes and ages, please visit Infinity's website at, all one word, infinityperformingarts.org, or give them a call at 664-0991. And also a reminder that new student orientation, which they have from time to time, will be held on November 21. And if you're interested for sign up for lessons. All right, so check out that. Okay, what do we got here? All right, the Chamber of Commerce, Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce welcomes one and all to attend the grand opening and ribbon cutting of their new office in downtown Jamestown on February 22nd, on Friday. They'll hold an open house from 1 to 3 p.m. with the official ribbon cutting set for 1:30. The new downtown Jamestown Chamber office is at 300 North Main Street at the corner of 3rd and Main. They'll provide snacks and beverages. Reservations are not required but appreciated, so they know how many to expect. You can call their office at 484-1101 and sign up through their online calendar of events. So that sounds great. Chautauqua County Chamber does lots of good work for all of us, and they send me lots of their announcements throughout the year, so happy to share that. So hope they enjoy their new digs there. Okay, next one is United Community Christmas. Join us for their second annual United Community Christmas event. The best tree, as decided by Facebook voters, will choose a United Way partner to split prize money with the United Way of Northern Chautauqua County. They're seeking businesses to participate, decorate a tree, have some social media fun, and help a family in need this holiday season. Learn how your business can participate by visiting their link at Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce. Okay, moving along, Kids Coat Drive. It says, join us as we gather our new or gently used kids' coats. Visit one of our many local stores to find a new coat or clean out the attic, basement, and closet to help us ensure that every kid who needs to be warm this winter will be. Over 200 coats have already been distributed to the community this winter season through the joint efforts of the United... Hold on a second. They give me all these acronyms. The Northern Chautauqua Community... Hang on one second. United Way of Northern Chautauqua County. I want to get it right because I can goof everything up here. The Resource Center, East Main Laundry, and the Salvation Army. Winter's just beginning, so we're still collecting in the hopes of crossing every name off the very long wait list. Coats can be dropped off at any local community bank branch through the end of November or at the United Way's office through the end of the year. Folks, I don't understand how we have to give kids coats. I just don't understand that. But I suppose they outgrow it, and sometimes parents don't have the money, so pitch in and give them some help. Okay, we got a slide for this one. Holiday auction. This was one that I'm involved with. All right, pretty simple. Holiday auction coming to Noble Winery over on Hardscrabble Road in Westfield. It's going to be held next Saturday, November 23rd. It's sponsored by the Friends of the Ripley Library. There's going to be a silent auction from 12 to 4 p.m. and then a live auction to follow. So the silent is, you sign up, you make your silent bids, and they've got all kinds of stuff coming in. And then they're going to have a couple auctioneers, and I'll be there helping out as well. So a lot of fun. All the proceeds, of course, go to help the Ripley Public Library. All right, here's one from Westfield. Holiday High Tea. This is always fun to talk about. The Chautauqua County Historical Society will be hosting a holiday high tea at the historic McClurg Mansion in Moore Park, Westfield, New York, on Saturday, November 23rd, as part of the annual Christmas in the Village series of events. So have your high tea and then go to the auction. Patrons may feel as though they've stepped back in time as they enjoy delightful and delectable sandwiches, savories, sweets, and beverages while basking in the rich and beautiful ambiance of the mansion. I don't write this, I just read it. Tea will be served from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. The cost is $15 and no reservations needed. Wow. For those of you that can't see the picture, there was all kinds of little goodies there, and I bet that'll be a lot of fun. And I know that folks there dress up in period dress and outfits and things like that. Lots of good stuff. All right, continuing on. Christmas in the Village. All right, we're just going to go slide 18, Chris. I think it's the same as 17. It's like a double here. Westfield is having a party. Plans are being made to celebrate Christmas in the Village next weekend, November 22, 23, and 24. It says here, if you want to, they reference a Facebook page here, but we don't have that information here. So I guess just let you know, if you are interested, give Sue Poster a call at 248-830-6058. I can't see the little fine print on there, but Christmas in the Village, and you always can call the town hall or wherever, or the Chamber of Commerce office, and they'll tell you more. But they have lots of activities. They have carolers out on the street. They've got horse-drawn carriages usually, and they offer hot drinks and things like that. Just really gets to be fun. It kind of reminds me of Scrooge and that whole period of time. And they've been on my show. You never know. They show up here every once in a while in full garment and dress, and actually raise a lot of cane here. Last year, Rick Mascaro and Rick Matthews showed up, and they just were tearing the studio up. I think one was Father Time, and the other one was Ichabod. Ebenezer Scrooge. That's who he was. Okay. Oh, my Ichabod's mixed up here. All right. Let's continue on. Back to Jamestown. Episode 92 of Rolling Hills Radio is going to be held on November 25th at Shawbucks at 212 West 2nd Street in Jamestown, New York. They'll be presenting the Ramsey sisters and folk singer-songwriter Garnet Rogers for episode 92. All right, we talked a little bit about these folks in the last couple of weeks, but I'll just give you a quick summary. Sisters Mary and Susan Ramsey are both classically trained in viola and violin. Their appearance on Rolling Hills Radio is a rare opportunity to see them playing and singing together. Now, Mary Ramsey might sound familiar because Mary has worked with the Erie Philharmonic, the Fresno Philharmonic, the Santa Cruz Symphony, and the Monterey Symphony in California. But why we would know her more locally is she is the front person, singer, viola player for 10,000 Maniacs. With 10,000 Maniacs, founder member John Lombardo, she's also in the folk rock duo John and Mary, and they play up in Buffalo a lot. Now, her sister Susan studied violin and viola at Smith College. She's the director of the Foxcross Academy String Program, as well as playing viola and violin with David Millett, who I happen to know is another great musician. Okay, the other individual that will be performing that evening is Garnet Rogers, and he's been a full-time working musician with his older brother Stan, and together they have performed what has come to be accepted as one of the most influential acts in North America folk music scene. Okay, so I'll read what Ken Hardley has to say. These are his words. He says this of the Ramsey sisters. I've been in the presence of these two making music together, and I can tell you that they personify the old saw that there is a musical simpatico between siblings that is natural and effortlessly beautiful. The indescribable quality can be he repeated that. It can be quite beautiful on recordings, but to see and hear them together live is unmatched and a moving experience. He goes on, Rolling Hills is nothing if not a celebration of genuine, heartfelt music presented by people with rare talent. Garnet Rogers is just that. I promise you, you will leave this show having been moved deeply. Okay, so here's the deal. Shawbucks is down in Jamestown. They open their doors at 5:30. They have a kind of like a happy hour with food and drink available. 6:15, they shut everything down. You sit down, you get ready. The show starts at 6:30. They have a little bit of a intermission somewhere in the middle of all that. And then afterwards, you can meet the Ramsey sisters. You can meet Garnet Rogers in person. And I'm sure they're going to have CDs and stuff like that for sale. If you're interested, it's only $15. You can give them a call at 294-0416 or go on the rollinghillsradio.org site and get your tickets there. Woo! Okay, real quick, just two more things, I believe, and then we're going to take a little breather. Did you know that December 3rd this year is called Giving Tuesday? Okay, and I think this is around the whole country. This is not just here. What is Giving Tuesday, you may ask? It's a global, 24-hour fundraising blitz that raised approximately $400 million last year worldwide. Okay, the Northern Chautauqua community, let me get this again. I keep using the wrong terms here. United Way, not the foundation. The United Way of Northern Chautauqua County will participate again this year along with other local organizations. I'm involved with too many organizations. I get all their acronyms wrong. Follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to hear all about the work going on here in Northern Chautauqua County. You can join the fight anytime. Just visit their site and find out a whole lot more. And finally, our good friends with the Blue Star Mothers program and the veterans, they're calling all teachers, Sunday school teachers, daycares, nursing homes, Boy and Girl Scout leaders, anyone interested. They're seeking cards and letters, homemade or Christmas cards to place in the care packages that they're going to be packing on December 7th. It says, please place them in one of our collection boxes, drop them off at the Fluvanna Community Church on December 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. or contact them in any way you can to get to them. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. These are their favorite part of the boxes for our military overseas. Thank you for supporting our men and women who are serving so very far from home and their families in Christmas. So, folks, they're looking for cards, and if you can help them out, please do so. We're going to take a breather. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. We've got a great show and story yet for you.
Vision loss is not something that you feel until it happens.
Most people lose their vision from diseases like macular degeneration and glaucoma, not at birth.
3 million Americans have glaucoma, and half don't even know it.
11 million people in the United States have macular degeneration.
So many eye disorders can be treated if caught early.
Make a plan today to get your eyes checked.
Visit brightfocus.org.
Absolutely. I've had relatives that have had that condition and they get the medication or shots or whatever. And your eyesight is so darn important in life, so don't mess around with anything that you might have problems with. Get it taken care of soon, just like everything else we talk about. Okay, my guest has been waiting patiently as I plowed through all of our announcements. Michelle Henry is our very own county historian, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I can't remember, we were talking earlier, it's been at least a couple of years since you were on last, and we always enjoy hearing what you have to say. And this year, I didn't come up with a theme. I said, surprise me, right? And you did. So, how you been?
Fine. Busy.
Busy's
yeah,
good.
Always lots to do in the history field.
Okay. So you were telling me a little story about what you were working on, and that's what we're going to get started in. So
yeah, it connects a bit to Veterans Day, so we celebrated recently. So
right.
I thought it might be nice to talk about a project that's kind of been ongoing for a while in my office, related to indigent soldiers, going all the way back to the War of 1812.
Okay, let's define indigent.
So that is a soldier who did not have the financial means to pay for the burial of himself or his spouse.
Wow.
So, which, you know, throughout our history, we've always had programs to help the poor.
Okay.
And originally, the Poor Farm served a lot of those functions, and we did have some soldiers that were buried in the County Poor Farm, which was opened in 1832. The New York State legislature passed a law in 1890 allowing for any veteran buried in a poor farm to be moved to a cemetery if the family requested it. And we know that some were moved from our poor farm in DeWittville to the Mayville Cemetery.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what's a poor farm? I've heard of it, and I know their ruins are still there, I think, or
well,
little bits of it?
Yeah, in 1830, New York State passed a law that every county had to establish a poor farm. And that was to improve and standardize the care for anybody who couldn't support themselves. So the county, Chautauqua County, started looking for land and bought 90 acres in DeWittville and constructed a poor farm. So anybody who could not take care of themselves, so it could be, you know, somebody who was injured.
Elderly?
Elderly, absolutely. Orphans, abandoned spouses and children. Anybody could go there, and typically it was for temporary assistance. So
Okay.
you went for as long as you needed assistance, and then you left.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, is this correct that they had a farm there, like a working farm that would actually like produce
Absolutely,
food and
yeah.
milk
So
and
it was
bread?
meant to be a functioning farm. It was meant to be self-sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who were, you could go there voluntarily. You could be sent there by your town superintendent of the poor. Every town had somebody who was a poor master who was charged with determining.
Poor master? I've never heard that term
That's
before.
an early office in our towns. So
Wow.
you'll find it in the early town minutes.
Okay.
So every town had a poor master whose charge was to determine who really was indigent. You know,
Oh,
who didn't have any
boy.
family to help support them, and then they would be sent to the poor farm. And the poor farm would charge each town for the number of people they sent.
Oh, all right.
So that's how they funded it. But you did whatever jobs you were capable of doing. So when you got there, if you could work on the farm, you worked in the fields, in the barns. The women cooked, they cleaned, they sewed, they made blankets, rugs. So it was self-sustaining, and for a period of time, they actually provided all the food for the jail.
So how long was this farm around?
The county poor farm was in DeWittville until 1959, actually,
Are you kidding?
when
didn't
they
know that.
bought land in Dunkirk and built the infirmary.
Okay.
So before that, it had ceased functioning as a farm, as New York state law changed and they didn't require people to do farm labor any longer. But the facility was there until 1959. I think in 1929 they changed the name to the county home to kind of remove the stigma of being a poor farm.
So 1832, we could have had people there from the Revolutionary War then.
Absolutely. And
Wow.
part of the challenge for finding who is actually buried there is that there was no real consistent list. There's no gravestones. The cemetery is only about 1 acre in size. It's still there. And all we know is prior to 1864, there were over 600 people buried there. So in 1864, they erected a monument in the middle of the cemetery that says that this is dedicated to the 600 souls who are buried here. And then after that, they started using a numbered stone at
Okay.
each grave.
All right.
And we did luckily find a couple handwritten lists of who's buried under each numbered stone, but it's really incomplete. And they used the cemetery there until 1928. So theoretically, there could have been soldiers there from War of 1812, Revolutionary War,
Wow.
Civil War.
Sure. Well, a lot of our communities go back to the early 1800s. I mean, like Ripley's 1816, I
Oh,
believe.
sure. And you know, there were quite a few Revolutionary War veterans who moved here with their adult children as this land became open for settlement.
Right, and this was pretty much the early frontier.
This was the
in
Wild West. So, yeah, so we do have quite a few Revolutionary War soldiers who are buried in Chautauqua County. They're pretty well documented in a book by Fred Cates, which is a 2-volume set, very informative, very valuable. We did identify 2 Civil War veterans who we believe are still buried at the Poor Farm because we don't have any record of their family requesting that they be moved. So I think there's more work to be done there in researching the folks who might have been a veteran, people who were veterans who were buried there. But then after 1890, when we know some folks were moved to Mayville Cemetery, in 1915 the state passed a law that would require the county to reimburse towns who requested financial assistance to bury indigent veterans. So in 1915, this New York state law required town supervisors to submit claims to the county, because in those days the county was run by a board of supervisors, which was made up of all the town supervisors.
Before
we didn't
the-
have a legislature.
Right. I remember that.
So those folks could submit a claim to Chautauqua County to pay for the burial, a headstone, the portage of the body from wherever they passed to wherever they wanted to be interred. And the gravestone was supposed to give their name, the company they served with, and their date of death. So there was a bit of a framework for what each stone was supposed to say. So when we did the big court renovation project at the courthouse in the early 2000s.
When you say we, who's we? Do you have staff there? I mean,
Well-
we don't. A lot of people don't know who we is.
I'm I'm the we. No, I have a volunteer genealogist who comes in one day a week, and she is a retired librarian, and she is just a godsend because she's very organized. She's she when she gets on a subject, she follows it through to the end. You know, she just does not give up. And so when we did the court renovation project, unfortunately, there had been records stored in the dome of the courthouse for a very long time, and we needed to get them out of there. And so we brought down these old invoices from the Board of Supervisors, and in amongst very generic, mundane invoices for payment of whatever were these sheets that said soldier's burial. And so we didn't want to, get rid of those. We wanted to figure out what it was all about. And actually what they're all from the 1930s, and they're the submissions from each town supervisor to the county to get reimbursed for the burial expenses for veterans. And so, I really feel it's important for us to make sure that we know where our veterans are buried and know as much as we can about them to make sure that their graves are properly marked. And so we started, organizing these invoices. Some are not completely filled out, so we have bits of information, but not a lot. And we just started creating this, Microsoft Word table where we could collect information off of these documents, and then my volunteer genealogist has been trying to add to that.
So let me ask you this, because I've done a lot of my family genealogy. Every document that has anything to do with my family to me is precious, because a lot of people say, well, that was just a birth certificate or that was just whatever. But people don't realize a date, a witness's name, something that beyond that document that just leads you down another path. So what kind of information is on these things?
Well, typically it gives the name of the town supervisor, the date, the name of the soldier, and what they were supposed to collect. It's a pre-printed form, and it would be the name of the soldier or his spouse, the company he served with, the dates that he served, and then where and when he passed. Because they could submit these for folks who had been from any previous war.
Right.
So there are actually some that were submitted in the 1930s for War of 1812 veterans.
So if someone was checking out the history of their ancestor that served in 1812, they could find out what company they were in, and there's gazillions of books on the War of 1812, and they could follow the footsteps of that relative, right?
Right. So these are important for folks who are interested in family history.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Right. And they're important for just acknowledging the fact that these folks served, and some of them were in unmarked graves, and so it's, we really felt that we needed to do something to make this information available.
Okay.
And my volunteer also does a lot of work with a website called Find a Grave.
Right.
And there's just millions and millions of graves from all over the world on this website. And there are folks in the county who regularly go to our cemeteries and document veterans' burials and put them on Find a Grave. So there's other folks out there. It's all volunteer based, and it's all free. Anybody can go to the website. So there are other people who are already adding veterans' graves information into Find a Grave and taking photographs of the gravestones. So my volunteer would compile this information, check to see if they were already in Find a Grave, and if they were, she's adding that to our table. But a lot of them weren't, and a lot of them, like for example, we found one man. The document was submitted for a soldier named Leonard Brown. Nothing else on it. So
poor Leonard.
Yeah. So we were just struggling because Brown is a common name.
I think every town has a Brown.
Yes. And we just couldn't find anything about a Leonard Brown who served from Chautauqua County in any conflict. So we were struggling. Finally, we started looking at the form, and on the back of the form, somebody had written in pencil on the margin a street address in Dunkirk.
There you go.
So we went to the city directories that we have in the office, and I looked up, because you can search by name or by street address. Those are a wonderful resource as well. And at that address, there wasn't a family named Brown, but it was Gronowitz. And my volunteer, because she's from Dunkirk, she said, they probably just misspelled the name. It's probably Baranowitz.
There you go.
And so we looked in other city directories, and there it was Leonard. It was Leonard. And so his actual name was Leonard Bernatowicz. I got that wrong. Bernatowicz. And he's buried in Dunkirk as Leonard Bernatowicz. But the military paper listed him as Brown.
And it goes to what I was just saying. Every document has something, and if you had not turned that paper over, you probably would have found Leonard.
Right, exactly. And, so the city directory had the name wrong, but other city directories did not.
Isn't
and
that interesting?
Yeah, so, you feel like, well, his gravestone didn't indicate that he was a veteran.
Oh, how sad.
Right. So, and we found that in some cases where they actually do have a gravestone, but the veteran's information didn't get added to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the future, hopefully, we'll put this up on my website, and then when the towns put flags out for Memorial Day, they'll be able to add flags for these folks who we can document as having served, but their stones don't reflect that. And I don't know that they often have a record for that when they're marking the cemeteries.
Now, as you heard me in my introduction here, there's people watching us anywhere right now, anywhere in the world, or listening to us later on YouTube or on the radio. So if somebody had a relative in Chautauqua County and they said, I think my great-great-great-great-grandfather was at the Poor Farm, but we have no idea where he's buried. It's always been family lore. Can they contact you?
Oh, absolutely.
How do they do that?
I have a county email address,
Okay.
and I'm always happy to receive requests by email. If, I can give it to you if you'd like. It's
Sure.
Henry M. for Michelle Henry at co.chautauqua.ny.us.
And what I find when I can never remember any of that, I just go to Chautauqua County Government, and then
Yes.
County Historian drops down, I believe,
Yes,
right?
yes. So you can contact me through the county website. I have all the records from the Poor Farm, and like I said, we don't have great burial records, but we do have some. And we also, sometimes in the records, it'll say if the person died at the Poor Farm, it'll say taken away by friends or taken away by family, and then other times it doesn't. So then that might kind of imply to you that nobody came to claim the body. It's speculation, but it might be the only clue you have.
And again, someone's doing genealogy. Every shred of information just helps fill in that big gap.
Right.
And so on. People might be wondering, how did you get involved being a county historian? I mean, is this something you always had a yen for growing up, or did you go to school to be a historian? How's that work?
Yeah, I don't think it's a straight path for most folks who get
Okay.
into history. But I've always enjoyed history. I took a lot of history courses in college, but my degrees are in anthropology. But they're close,
cool.
they're a close set
Absolutely.
of studies. And I started working at the County Historical Society in Westfield. So I worked at the McClurg Museum for 8 years and was coming to the courthouse quite often to do research. And the county clerk, Sandy Sopak,
Oh, yeah.
asked me to come on board and help them get a handle on their historical records. So I never envisioned myself ending up working in a county courthouse, but I love the archives. We have the largest collection of historical records in Chautauqua County, and they hadn't really been given the attention they deserved. And Sandy was just passionate about history and records. And so we've done everything we can to try to make things available, because we hold so many records, and what's the point if they can't be used by people
Precisely.
for whatever
Right.
reason, So we found a lot of records at the courthouse like these that were not filed because they were soldiers' burials. They were filed as an invoice, for payment.
Right.
But here they have this wealth of information about people who have served, all the way from War of 1812 to World War I, and we're hoping that this will allow their graves to be, recognized as veterans'
And honored correctly,
graves.
right.
Right. So, and there were some very interesting, other than just Leonard Brown, there's a man named Swan Anderson who's got a gravestone in Webster Street Cemetery in Portland, but he's buried in Westfield. So we don't know why the Portland supervisor requested a gravestone for him, unless perhaps the family thought he was buried there. He was a Civil War veteran, and of course
Okay.
this is in the 1930s.
Right.
And maybe the family didn't remember that he was in Westfield, but there is a stone in Westfield for
Where's
him.
his body?
In Westfield.
And his stone is in.
But there's also a stone for him in Webster Street Cemetery.
Hmm.
So, yeah, we don't know what happened.
Wow.
But yeah, so and then there's another situation where there is a woman who's buried in Portland. I think she's in Webster Street as well. And her gravestone says that she was a sergeant in the Civil War. And there weren't
female sergeant?
There really weren't women who were sergeants in the Civil War. So we were curious about that because she does get a veteran's flag each year. And the stone next to her is completely illegible.
Oh.
But we did a lot of research on her. She was married to a man named William Crane. He was a sergeant in the Civil War in the 112th. But his gravestone isn't legible. So, so she was eligible to get a stone. And so I don't know if they chose to put his service information on her stone because they were paying for it with the veterans funds. I'm not really sure, but it is confusing because it does list her as the sergeant, but it's actually him. So,
I bet that makes for an interesting Thanksgiving discussion.
Well, and because it does come up every once in a while, you'll see it in somebody's, Facebook page or whatever that, there was a woman in Chautauqua County who was a sergeant in the Civil War. And there's
true.
not. Right. So, part of this hopefully is allowing us to maybe correct some information.
But Hollywood would love that storyline.
Yeah. Well, a couple years ago, we did stumble across a woman who was given a pension for service in the Civil War. And that was a fascinating story, and we only found her because we were researching lighthouse keepers at the Dunkirk Lighthouse. And we found out that when she passed away, we were searching her husband, who was a lighthouse keeper, and it said this woman was given her own pension for service. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. We need to find out. And she's buried in Forest Hill in Fredonia, and she followed her husband to the Civil War and stayed with him for 3 years and was at the back of every battle, treating the wounded. She never left her husband, and he was shot and injured at Gettysburg. She followed him to Rhode Island and worked in a hospital for 3 months while he was recuperating.
Wow.
And he had lifelong disability. He was actually shot through the kneecap, so his knee was shattered, and he never really fully recovered. So Dunkirk appointed him as lighthouse keeper, I think.
Wait a minute. Now, this is not to be funny. The guy's shot through the knee, and they give him a job that he's got to go up and down stairs?
He's got to climb up those stairs several times a day.
Wait a minute.
So you're exactly right. So who do you think was doing that?
Oh, she was.
Don't you think? I mean,
oh, she had to.
Dunkirk gave him the job because he couldn't work, and they had no other means of support. So I think they gave him that job to thank him for his service, recognizing that she had to be doing that work.
Boy.
I mean,
maybe it was the family package.
Yeah, well, they didn't have any children.
Okay.
They never had kids. Anyway, it's just an interesting story. She died before him, and she's buried in Forest Hill, but her gravestone just had her name and dates of death. It had nothing about the fact that she had served, and then she had actually been pensioned. Later in life, when I don't think either one of them were able to do the work of the lighthouse keeper any longer, the folks, all of the ministers in Dunkirk got together and wrote petitions and sent them to the House of Representatives and asked them to give her her own pension, and it was passed by Congress.
Unbelievable.
So she was pensioned in like 1894, so they were up there in years.
I'm trying to express what I'm thinking right now. I think here we are, 2019, and we look around, we watch TV, we see all this stuff going on, and we forget that there's been gobs and layers of all this stuff that transpired, not so differently, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 75 years ago, and people were busy petitioning and going to Washington. You know what I mean? We forget that we're working off of their shoulders and their history, and I'm just listening to this story and I'm fascinated by that. It's really cool.
Right, I know, to think that the House of Representatives specifically read her legislation and granted her a petition.
Great.
Yeah, so I think that's really impressive. So she died and was buried in Forest
What was
Hill
her name?
Cemetery. Sarah Sinfield. Her husband was William Sinfield. They were actually from England. They came here just prior to the Civil War. And after she died, he couldn't take care of himself. He was sent to a veterans hospital in Dayton, Ohio. And they weren't people of means, so when he died, he's buried there in the cemetery at that veterans hospital. And it was just kind of sad for us to think that she stayed with him all through the service, and yet they didn't get to be buried together.
Okay, so let me ask this question then. So now with the legislation that's in place today, could that family, if they were to follow up on that somewhere, a brother, not brother, it wouldn't be a brother, some cousin or, 10 times removed, make a request to have his body brought to Chautauqua County?
Well, that would, he is buried in a veterans cemetery,
Okay.
but, it would be really nice if they could somehow be put together somewhere.
Wow.
So what we did is we raised some money and had a plaque put on her grave
how nice.
that indicates what she did, her years of service. Because the regiment said that she was just crucial to the well-being of the men.
Yes. I want to share a little story, and this isn't a veteran related, but it's along the same lines. My grandfather I never met. He died in 1949. He was a lot older than my grandmother, from what I could tell, and they were estranged. So I don't even know what the man looks like. That's really sad. And so we knew he was in Detroit. We knew he worked there and so forth, because I followed him up. I found his addresses and all this, but he died and was buried somewhere. And I think it was in a poor farm situation similar. And my brother and I were tracking him down, and so we found the records that he was buried in someplace near Detroit. And my brother sent me a picture one day. Now here's the sad part. I see a picture of my brother's foot in the picture and a piece of grass. He says, our grandfather's buried here, but there's no stone or anything. So, and that's sad in and of itself, but I would think, for folks that are with the veterans or this poor farm, it's probably similar, that these people have been buried and forgotten, totally forgotten.
Yes, and I think as a historian, you just feel that there's somebody out there, maybe not today, but someday, is going to want to know where that person is.
Yeah.
And anything that we can do today to document it will help people down the line, because you think, if somebody had done this 50 years ago or 70 years ago, maybe we wouldn't be left wondering now. And a lot of our cemeteries are small, and their records have either been lost or destroyed in a fire. Yeah. So it's difficult to track folks who don't have stones, and now a lot of those early stones are really being made illegible just because acid rain and the passage of time. So
yeah. So as far as memorializing this information, it sounds like you've put a lot of this on social media or computers.
Well, we will be. It's my volunteer is not going to say it's done until she's sure that she's exhausted every resource. So we've compiled, there's over 350 names on the list, and we've compiled that, and she's really just going through and double checking, kind of cleaning it up right now, and then we'll put it up on my website. So we have a lot of other resources that are up there already. So it'll be there for folks, anybody who might want to just verify who's buried in which cemeteries.
If you can remember, send me the link and I'll share that on the show here, and maybe we can even pop it up, because we have the technology to go to the internet and pop it up here on the screen. Just take a breath. Folks, you're watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels, and my guest today is Michelle Henry, our county historian here in Chautauqua County. And we still have about 9.5 minutes left, and if you do have a phone question or a comment, give us a call at 716-753-5225. Okay. So that's one really cool project you're working on. So you're always working on more than one, I'm sure. So,
yeah.
History just goes in so many directions.
It does. We have an ongoing project to document all the 19th century structures in Chautauqua County.
Oh boy. And
that is, it's done by a lot of volunteers, and it just kind of grows as people have the time to go out and take photographs, and then they do research on the property. And it's called the Historic Structure Database, and it's on my website as well. And so you can go to that and search by town and then click on a street address. and see as much information as has been compiled to date on that property. And they started out by looking at the structures that were present on the 1867 Atlas and the 1881 Atlases for Chautauqua County, because that shows residences and the name of the owner, and the 1854 wall map. And so it's, you know, really volunteer driven.
That'd be cool.
Some towns are more complete than others because there's more people that are interested in those houses. But it's really neat because people, like I was mentioning to you earlier, a woman from Alaska contacted me because she had a family connection to a structure in the county, and she had an album of when her family owned it. So we were able to, she sent those to us electronically, we were able to put those on that website.
Cool.
So even though we had only a current photo of the house, you could go back and see how it looked 100 years ago.
Okay, let's hold that story. We do have a phone call. Okay, good morning, caller.
Morning, Doc. It's Mike Felsman from Portland.
Mike from Portland. I haven't heard from you in a little bit.
I know. Well,
Is this interesting or what?
oh, well, yes, very much so. Very much so. I want to say hello to Michelle. I think she'll remember me.
Mike Felsman?
Mike,
Oh, sure.
yeah. Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm retired now. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I retired. Actually, it's been pushing 3 years.
Wow.
Goes by quick.
I retired in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
Right at the beginning of the year. But yeah, I am enjoying, well, it's good to hear from you, for one.
Yeah.
And I am enjoying your talk this morning. I mean, I think the older I get, the more interesting I find history, and especially our local history. I live like probably a mile or maybe a mile and a quarter from the cemetery, Portland Evergreen Cemetery anyways. And that's actually is our family, not that we're a big family, but my dad's buried up there. My mother's still alive, but she'll be there eventually. And my wife died a year and a half ago, a year and 3 months ago, and she's buried up there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then of course eventually I will be too, but I've been up there, well, especially since my wife died. I've probably been up there more than I was when my dad died, but still I get up there.
Sure.
And it's kind of interesting that your stories kind of reference that particular cemetery. But you're right. You are right about one thing. I mean, if you go back to the original cemetery, the original section, yeah, a lot of those tombstones you can't read anymore.
Right.
And it is. I mean, I don't know if there is any kind of, how can I say, answer to the problem. Sort of, you know, and I really don't even know what kind of records they have. I know, you know, I'm sure in later years there's lots of records, but who knows back going, and I don't know when that was established, and I should, because it's on the sign, but it's got to be like maybe the 1820s, Michelle, and you might know more than I do.
Yeah, that's an early cemetery. A lot of our cemeteries in the county were established in the 20s and 30s. Luckily,
You mean the 1820s and
Right.
1830s, right? Okay.
Right,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. We're historians, we're always dealing in the 18th. Luckily, in the 1920s and 30s, the Daughters of the American Revolution were really active in, getting members, and they did a lot of cemetery readings. So we have copies of the stones that were read then, which is super because that's, almost 100 years now, and some of them since then have become much more worn and deteriorated. I don't know that there's an answer either because it's so costly to maintain cemeteries. Many of our cemeteries are struggling to keep the trees, pruned sufficiently so they don't cause damage. Keeping the stones erect is a real struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I know in our particular case, well, I noticed that this year when we were up there doing my dad's stone, and he is, I'm going to say, unfortunately buried by a tree, and it's done a little deterioration now. I've actually paid for the company, the local monument company, to clean it, and so hopefully, I haven't seen it cleaned yet, but hopefully it'll look better when it when it is. But yeah, that's even getting a little hard to read. And that's only 20 years ago.
Okay, Mike. Well, I hope you're well and staying warm up there.
Pretty much. I'm really surprised about the snow, and I'm sorry it's sticking around so long.
Right.
But anyways, I should let you get back. Your time is running out.
Yeah, but now 3.5 minutes. All right, Mike, as always, thanks for
Good to
calling.
hear from you.
And
Take
good to hear
care.
from
Yeah,
you.
you too. Yeah, bye now.
Okay. So any other projects that you've been working on lately?
Well, the other thing that's on my website, I've talked about that a lot because I really do think, like you're saying, that technology is changing, and when people contact us, they really want to have access to information. We have a document on my website called the Underground Railroad.
Yes.
Anti-slavery map. And once again, it's a group of volunteers that have just done incredible amounts of research. The Underground Railroad's hard to document because it was a secret. It was a criminal activity. But there have been a number of various sources that have been kind of gleaned to try to reconstruct what was going on here in the county. And there's over 1,100 dots, let's say, on the map. So you can go to the map on my website and you can click on it and then drill down to any area and find information about the people who were signing anti-slavery petitions, people who we may have been able to document as having an active role in the Underground Railroad, and just some of the other events that are documented in our historic newspapers, some of the publications that were written about the Underground Railroad. So that's ongoing as well, but it's probably one of the best compilations of documentation in New York State.
I did go on that site after you did a presentation, I think at our Rotary Club about the Underground Railroad, and I was amazed to see in our hometown of Ripley how many locations were involved. And on the Wattlesburg Church, I think it was called, right?
Right, yes.
That's up in the hills. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, yeah, that would make sense. It's, way far away from the main roads and that. But I didn't even realize there had been a church there, but that was really fascinating.
Right, and so we do know a lot of like the Baptist churches were signing anti-slavery petitions. Sometimes they were collecting money and clothing and other goods to give to the escaping slaves. So, you can't say that for sure that that was a spot on the Underground Railroad, but that those were people who were actively involved in trying
Along
to
the path.
assist them, right, and to end slavery.
Yeah.
So that's a really important part of our history. And New York, this part of New York State was right in the main, we were active with East-West movement, North-South movement. And it's just, it's another thing that I think we really owe it to our history
Absolutely.
to document.
Sometime maybe in another show, I would love to hear about like our local Indian, the Native American history. Do you have anything like that here in Chautauqua County?
We have some. There's things that have been written over the years. There were some mounds that were excavated. We know there were some really, really early mound sites, which is interesting as well because that's part of a bigger network that was in the whole eastern part of the United States. So that's a different.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Michelle Henry has been our guest today. We're down to like last 20 seconds here. So, Michelle, maybe one more time you can tell folks how to get a hold of the information.
Sure. The county's website is www.co.chautauqua.ny.us, and that's my email as well, henrym@co.chautauqua.ny.us. You can call me 753-4857, and if there's anything that we have in the county archives, happy to try to help you get access to it.
Excellent. Well, Michelle, as always, thanks for joining us, and we're going to have you come back and we'll talk more history here in Chautauqua County.
Happy to.
Well, folks, that's a wrap for another week. I can't believe how fast that went. I could sit here and talk all day with you. So I hope you enjoyed the show. For those that were streaming with us, please leave a little note that you were here. And for those listening later in the week, thanks for joining us, and always check us out on YouTube. Have a great weekend. Stay warm. Hopefully it'll warm up a little bit. And we'll see you all right here next Saturday, 9 a.m. on Access Chautauqua. I'm Doc Hamels. See you next time.